Isn't it ironic that I had 6 chapters and the miniseries is 6 parts? So there's a clue there. But I wanted to do something different because I really wanted to call this Mars Land. The editors wouldn't let that title. It's a part of it's a chapter title. But I really, when I got done, I felt like I was on Mars Land. And here's why. When I got the call to do this book, I was actually at a meeting at the Lunar Planetary Institute in Houston, Texas, with a couple hundred scientists that were actually brought there to start gauging where on Mars, if humans were to go, where would you go? What kind of sites would be the best sites to go to? And it's called exploration zones. And now this is NASA talking. So they had something like a big circle. Okay, something's going to land in the middle. And it's important to have these exploration zones have places where it's scientifically interesting. You know, there's something going on Mars that we ought to understand. There's something about Mars that we need to explore, and there's something about, if you're going to stay there, because one of the big themes of this book is this is not Apollo. You put the flag down, you run around, you salute the flag, you put some science experiments down there, and then you get out of it, like the moon. And so the point was to not only survive Mars, but thrive there. How do you do that? One of the key things is Mars is pretty plentiful, lots of resources. Where are they? How do we get to them? How difficult will it be to process those materials? That had to be within the exploration zone these people had to discuss. So you'll see this is how they plotted this out. Nothing has been determined. There's like 50 different sites, and they're kind of culling these things down. Eventually we'll get to some magnificent site that they really want to put humans on. This is an easy and cheap way to go to Mars, which is having visual artists put the thing together. Key thing is how many people are going to go. 4 or 7 of these people. I'm always wondering whether the cook that's on board is actually trying to make the meals for these people as they walk around. He's hidden in there, or she is. And there's 4 people running around. And that's cool, but who are these people? What kind of people are going to go? I mean, are they all engineers to make sure they survive the thing? What kind of people? Astrobiologists, botanists, geologists? You're going to have an engineer because it's like Home Depot time. You're going to fix things. Something's going to break down. So, okay. One of the lead, this is a picture from the movie series that's coming up in November. And again, it shows the kind of crew walking through the scene. One of the things I really wanted to emphasize is just what's going on with Mars as far as other countries. There is a global vision about exploring Mars. It's not just NASA. India has got an orbiter around Mars right now. The Europeans have got some great capability around Mars. NASA's got some great capability around Mars. China wants to land a rover there in 2020. This is not something that's just a one-country deal. And does that make a difference? If you have humans going to Mars, will there be a global enterprise? And we'll all hold hands and everything we find, the world will be great. And maybe that's a scenario that's pretty cool because it sort of mimics what happened on the International Space Station. And when you say International Space Station, one key word is international. There's like 16 nations going on involved in this big space. How many people have seen the space station fly overhead? Okay, that's a good thing. Big spot in the sky, lots of money going by. But it's a multinational effort. And it's a reminder of what I think could be one scenario for the future of humans on Mars. India's involved. China has 2 astronauts right now as we speak, just linked up with their space lab module, and they're practicing growing crops on that thing, and they're also practicing all kinds of technology to build a larger space station in the 2020 kind of time frame. I think it's, yeah. And the European Space Agency, they're really engaged in exploration of Mars, so much so that they, just the other day, they crashed something on Mars. It was an uphill moment for them, but it proves that Mars is hard. They had a lander, a robotic lander, nobody on it, but it was coming down, and the parachute opened, and the software didn't work right, and the retro rockets thought that was fine, and everything was going, and then it fell and exploded on the planet. And this just happened the other day. You know, people have a thing where you say Mars is hard. Well, it's really hard when you run into the planet at 200 miles an hour. This is kind of an interesting moment in kind of history in the sense of entrepreneurs in space. Elon Musk, not too far away from here in LA, and he is got a dream machine going. He really believes, this is the Tesla guy, this is the guy that SpaceX rockets, this is the guy that's got some solar city concepts, and he's a very passionate guy about space. And one of the things about being a reporter, I never thought I would be meeting millionaire and billionaire people that were passionate about space. I always thought, oh, I'll be sitting there talking to Chris McKay in his lab, talking to different scientists, and that's fun. And entrepreneurs, this is very interesting about SpaceX. And his dream is to build an interplanetary spaceship. Of course, when you have an interplanetary spaceship taking colonists to Mars, you have to have windows. That was one of the... So, and he's also talking about a pizza parlor on the back of the rocket. Okay, so this is his vision. That's a cool thing. He's also going to use his Dragon vehicle that he's actually built, and it's been successful, to put unmanned, uncrewed payloads up to the International Space Station. He also has built the Dragon concept that will carry people. He's talking about landing the Dragon on Mars in early as unpiloted vehicles in 2018, 2020, 2022, then you start putting people in these things. So there's really another wavelength about Mars exploration that's different than where we've been in the past. The private sector, entrepreneurs, very interested. How is that going to be a player in the future? I had a chapter called Home Base. What is home base? If you had to go, what are you going to face? What are you going to be in? What kind of thing is going to happen there if you got to go to Mars? It's a long haul, 6 to 9 months. You got to live with a bunch of people, get out of that capsule, get into something. And here's sort of NASA's, well, early here, this is what they call analog sites. There's a bunch of places on the planet that mimic Mars in some way. Not every site mimics Mars exactly, but there are certain parts of Mars that you can kind of think you're on Mars. So there's a bunch of Mars wannabe people that live in these places, in these analog sites. They're actually kind of giving us clues about how crews interact with each other, what kind of water resources are needed. This is a picture of something in Hawaii. This is a dome on a volcanic site. And so, you know, and you got people pretending they're out on Mars walking around, and that's good. And there's a bunch of these places in Utah, Devon Island, up in the Arctic Circle. And so people are sort of practicing for the day when they think they're going to contribute to this Mars leap with humans. NASA's view is like, early on, is like kind of, this is like a sardine kind of can thing. It's okay. That's, you know, so one of the problems we've got here, the Curiosity rover that's like running around on Mars right now, it landed in August 2012. It's about a ton, weighed a ton. Well, it turns out when you really want to get habitats and you want your greenhouses and you want to get other kinds of facilities on Mars, we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 tons, 60 tons. How do you get that stuff down and make sure it's safe on the surface? and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But this is a little expanded view of a habitat, you know, how humans would, you know, they give you ladders. There's ladders to get down. That's always helpful. There's a bifurcation going on. Some people are suggesting, well, maybe we ought to put people in orbit around Mars and use telepresence, telerobotics. The communication relay from Mars orbit down to the surface is very fast, where you can, you know, at Earth it takes you quite a number of minutes to maneuver robots around. Why don't you have a bunch of people in a Mars craft or circling Mars, and they'll build the habitat that humans will eventually go to ahead of the time of human footfall on Mars. And so you see the beginning of this telepresence, telerobotics. Big interest in this area, and I don't know how it's going to go. In the book, I try to kind of explore both sides of going directly to Mars or going into Mars orbit, and you can assemble the habitat and use robots to do that before people get there. And I don't know how many vegetarians we have, but you probably are ready to go to Mars because I don't see much food happening. You know, this is going to be tough. These people are going to be pretty thin. You know, they may start out with some fat, but you know, this is going to be thin. You know, and here's the inside of an airlock, you know, with kind of a lot of greenhouse thing. This is like Whole Foods gone mad. So I don't know where that's going to go, but there are people, botanists, really working hard on this. And they're trying to figure out fertilizers and all kinds of carrots. And even the Chinese got silkworms or making something up there. I don't know what they're doing, but it's pretty cool. So we got that going. Okay, here's the cool thing. I think one of the most fascinating things I found out about when I wrote this book, 3D printing. Are we all 3D printing now? I'm a guy that I just got a fax machine. You know, but 3D printing is big, and there's a bunch of people working on construction ideas of how to use the local material on Mars to actually use it to make domes, make bricks, make all kinds of things. And so, never mind those tin can things, you know, with the habitats. This is probably, to me, where it's going to evolve to. You're going to have much different kind of structures in the future. That's pretty exciting because the architects are ready to go. There are a bunch of really cool ideas. And here's one where you use the ice subsurface of Mars and use it to make habitats. This is an ice house on Mars. And I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, it sounds like 21st century we're going to be in igloos on Mars, but I don't know, it sounds pretty cool. Because look at this picture of somebody inside one of these things. That's cool. It's got to be cool because it's ice. Anyway, I'm sorry. Then you have the cave people. The cave people. We started out in caves, right? Let's go to Mars and hide in caves. Okay.
Takes you from radiation.
That might be abundant on Mars. There's a number of sites that look like they're caves. So can we build habitats within the caves to sort of protect us from the UV, Mars thin atmosphere, a lot of radiation? Maybe we'll be back in the caves. I think it's sort of as a writer, it's like full circle. Out of the caves, into the caves on Mars. Okay. A couple of last points is that one of the, really tried to underscore this in the book, is the mobility on Mars. You saw that exploration zone, a circle. Okay, that's where the habitat is. How do you expand that so people don't have to trudge around Mars forever? And they won't be able to because of the radiation, and the suits are going to be confining, and what kind of things you're going to have to deal with. Can you use, you know, mobile devices? Can you crawl in giant rovers and drive off? I think that sounds good, but I think mission control goes, you can only go so far because if the wheels break down and a thing, you know, falls apart on you, you got to walk back to the habitat. So how far are these people really going to go in this circumference? And I think one way that I can see coming is this kind of stuff. We're going to have balloons. You're going to have a toolkit for astronauts on Mars that will allow you to expand the exploration zone around the habitat. And there'll be ballooning, There'll be hoppers, little robotic things, and helicopter-like devices that actually fly far away and come back and bring samples back to the habitat. And these are all run by the people on, it's like what we do now with home airplanes. People love to fly these things, so the astronauts will have a toolkit of these kind of devices. Airplanes, who knows, remote pilot vehicles flying surveillance over parts of Mars that may be hazardous, may be dangerous. Wouldn't you like to see one of those fly down Valles Marineris, the giant canyon on Mars, and just go down there? It's GoPro on crazy. And then we have tumbleweeds, scientific tumbleweeds that we'd actually unleash so they blow across maybe the polar caps, maybe across desert sites, but they're all sensor laden and have ability to measure the Martian terrain and relay the data back to the people in the habitat. But that's a bunch of technology. And one of the things I wanted to get away from in the book is I didn't want you to think that this is a slam dunk. It's a bunch of engineers getting together. Because what happens to the psychology of people going to Mars? I mean, we got some real issues. We got enough problems here. Even in this crowd, there's trouble. So, the mind on Mars. I mean, there's some really interesting psychological things going up there in the space station. They see some quirky things going on. And that's just, 300 miles above us, never mind some crew committed to go to Mars for a long haul. What kind of people are these people going to be? And one early warning sign was when some crew members actually told Mission Control to forget it. He gave us too many things to do. We're tired, we're run down, we were going on strike. And Skylab was an early warning sign about people overwrought with a bunch of things to do, too much. And they said, we're pulling the plug on this for a couple of days. We're tired. Can't do it. We don't care about the science. We don't care about. We're going to take care of ourselves up here, and we'll see you later. Click. So anyway, there was a kind of a beginning of something that I think we got to be careful about of not overcommitting the people. But the space station that's up there now is showing us some early, not only bad things, but also some great things about continuity of the crew, their ability to work in microgravity. And as a writer, I used to write, like a lot of reporters, is this the white elephant of NASA? I mean, is this thing worth it? It's a huge amount of money, a lot of countries involved. Will it actually do anything of value other than keep the life support system going so people can breathe? And it turned out to be pretty, I think, in my view, it turned out to be great. We have a thing called the overview effect. A lot of astronauts go through looking at the planet Earth and have almost a philosophical connection to the planet because you don't see, boundaries of countries. You don't see this or that, and there is something going on there with a visual bonding with the planet. It's pretty cool, and I think it's an early appreciation of the planet that not only, but there's several hundred people now have that appreciation of looking down at our Earth in that mode. That means a lot, but also there's a really important need for haircuts in space. This is an experiment to cut hair. Okay, we've made some progress there. Another guy. You gotta bring your music.
That's right.
The bad thing about this guy's by himself, so he probably doesn't even know how to play this thing. That's what worries me. There's nobody else with him. But I think he is a good guitarist. We had a really interesting experiment with twins. We had this guy go up for a year. Goes up, goes in the space station, lives there for a year. His brother, his twin brother, is on the ground, kind of the rat. He's the control person. And they're trying to figure out, well, okay, this guy went up there and he did space for a year, and radiation and all the other microgravity, what happens to your bones, and now they're putting the two together and they're trying to assess what happened to that guy compared to this guy. And that, I don't know if that data is out yet, but it's coming, and NASA's working hard. But this was a very interesting experiment that happened on the space station. It'll give us some new clues about the microgravity environment of space and what happens to a person. And not only physical, but psychological, and he had some really interesting outputs already that I've heard. The big driver, you know, and Chris McKay will get into this in length, I think. As long as I get off, he'll be in length. But,